So Matt, last summer, the playoff proposal was announced, and it appeared as though we were in a position where this playoff proposal had everyone on board and great momentum, and it was simply a matter of details. They just needed to work out the details, but it looked like that proposal was set and had the amount of support needed. Now here we are 8 to 9 months later, and it appears to be not dead. It's still there, but there are sticking points that certain conferences are holding to. So, I'm asking you the impossible question to conjecture into the future, but in regards to what do you think are the real holdups and why?
I just think it's the SEC's dominance, and I think, like, for the Big Ten and the ACC, as we all know, they've pushed back in recent weeks against the expanded playoff. And I have to just put it out there, point blank, Mark, that if Michigan had beaten Georgia, would the Big Ten still have that position? I don't think so. I think if Michigan had beaten Georgia, or if Cincinnati had beaten Alabama, but especially if Michigan had, struck a blow for the Big Ten by beating Georgia, would the Big Ten be as resistant to a 12-team playoff as it is now, and as it was right after the Georgia-Alabama national championship game? I think that the conferences are just seeing the SEC's dominance, and they're reacting to that instead of holding their ground and realizing, hey, wait a minute. We need this revenue. We can use this revenue. We need, with the TV dollars, the publicity. This is good. We want more of our schools in the conference. The SEC's dominance seems to be just shifting the focus away from that. And I just think people are so paralyzed by the SEC's and the Deep South's control over the sport at the national championship level that they're ignoring what's good for them. They're ignoring these riches waiting to be made, waiting to be gained. I just don't see another equally compelling explanation for why this shift has happened since June.
It's a win-win for anyone in the Power Five. Now, it's of course going to be a greater win for some conferences than others, and you can only conjecture based on past records and then the trend lines currently what that is going to be. But as we've discussed, and you alluded to earlier, the Big Ten is in a position to gain much because of that second tier of Michigan's, Penn State's, Wisconsin's that have narrowly missed the playoffs and would have been securely in a 12-team playoff more so than the other conferences. I've run the 12-team scenarios going back at least through the 2014 college football playoff era of 8 years, and the Big Ten benefits more than any other conference, at least based on that sample size.
Yeah, no, I mean, we made this point a week ago that from 2016 through 2018, the winner of the Big Ten championship game didn't get into the playoff. So in a 12-team system, the Big Ten's getting each of those three teams in. Penn State 2016, Ohio State in 2017 and 2018. So, like, the Big Ten stands to gain the most from a 12-team playoff. I mean, because the SEC already has, the near total ownership of the landscape. Like, the SEC, we can agree, is going to prosper regardless of what the system is: 4-team, 8-team, 12-team, or even a non-playoff. With the BCS, that was a 2-team just championship game setup. The SEC was the best. So the SEC is going to be good and prosperous no matter what. So if you look at the other conferences, which one has the most to gain? Like, there's no comparison, right? Because the Pac-12 is unlikely to get 2 teams, at least right now. Oregon and Stanford 10 years ago under Chip Kelly and Jim Harbaugh, like, that was an exception. But, right now the Pac-12 is not likely to get 2 playoff-worthy teams. And so the Big 12, it's generally been an Oklahoma conference. And if Oklahoma doesn't win, as we saw here with Baylor and Oklahoma State, the teams beat each other up. The Big 10 is usually that conference with a second or third, playoff caliber team it's Ohio State and someone else. So like this past year, Michigan was first and Ohio State was in that second tier. Ohio State would have been in a 12-team playoff. Other years, Wisconsin would have been that's 2017 Wisconsin team with just one loss would have been an additional Big Ten team in the playoff. Penn State 2016 joining Ohio State. So it's usually Ohio State plus one. So the Big Ten is going to get that second playoff team for sure. And maybe even in years when it's especially good, going to get three. So, because the ACC just has Clemson, that's it. It's clear that of the non-SEC Power Fives, the Big Ten has a lot to gain. And so that just makes Kevin Warren's stance that much more perplexing. And I don't think Jim Delaney would be displaying the pushback that Kevin Warren is displaying, because Kevin Warren just hasn't done a very good job as Big Ten commissioner. I think we can all agree on that particular point.
Yeah, certainly didn't start well for him, and he hasn't done much to recover. But he's got a strong league that he inherited, fortunately for him, that's been able to weather, despite all the misgivings and the mistakes and the missteps, and it's been able to weather it just based on the sheer strength of the programs involved at this point. But that can't last for long.